Welcome back to MPL Recall. Let's go ahead and jump into our first topic of the day. Balikan natin ang day 1. I almost forgot that MPL started ang nangyari ay syempre na sweep ng execration. We're gonna get into that in just a bit. And of course, the second series of the day, Aura PH versus Work Oster Force. Yan ang unang araw ng MPL Philippines Season 7. And of course, my name is Leo. Nagbabalik kasama natin si Nomad, TDZ, and Reptar. And first off, I gotta ask you guys, ano ang inyong mga impressions? Ano yung inyong unang naisip nung nakita ninyong 2-1 Aura Work and then 2-0 Execration Omega? You guys can react to any right now, like kung ano yung favorite nyo or whatever your thoughts are. Let's start with you, Raptar.
Well, yeah, it was a surprising start for the season, pero maganda in the sense that we really got to see some very interesting moves, some interesting drafts, starting to see the creativity of the team shine, and then especially with Omega versus Execration, realization para sa atin lahat na Execration mainit. For the longest time sinasabi natin, in theory, on paper, ang ganda ng Execration. After months of battling it out, of course, in Juicy Legends, now here in the MP, look really, really ready. Pero para sa Omega naman, the other way around, Omega did not look ready, or it's not the same Omega as we saw last season. Actually, like I said before about Omega, Omega is the team that looks the most similar but yet the most different. Kasi dun parehas pa rin yung mga pangalan pero iba na yung galaw.
Yep, I agree. A little scary to think of what's happening with Omega. Nomad, ikaw, man, let's address the elephant in the room. Sa tingin mo ba talaga, like, that morning, sa tingin mo ba makakalaro si The King knowing what happened the night before?
Honestly, speaking from my medical experience, I don't think that during that time I didn't think na makalaro si KLVJ, considering the fact na binabagsakan siya ng kama. More than likely kinover niya yung mukha niya para ma-save yung sarili niya. Hindi ko ini-expect na maglalaro siya. Fortunately, wala naman damage sa kamay, which is the most important part sa isang pro player. Pero that was surprising na even despite na may condition pa siya, may CT scan pa siya na dapat gawin nung araw na yun, he still managed to play. Well, not that day, pero may CT scan pa siya kailangan gawin to check for any further damage to the head. Pero I was surprised na yung determination and perseverance ni KLVJ was really there. The hunger to win his crown back as the king is still there.
Yeah. Baka 2-time MPL champion yan. Baka lang, di ba? Baka nakalimutan natin. And again, for those who don't know, the night before day 1 of MPL Philippines, nabagsakan ng double-decker bed si KLVJ. I mean, not both bunks. I mean, siya yung nasa ilalim, tapos nabagsakan siya nung nasa taas. It was a freak accident. Again, our prayers go out to his quick recovery, pero I'm not sure if he needs it anyways. Like, konting pahinga lang, a few checkups, and again, a CT scan here and there, and again, a 2-0 will tell you everything you need to know about how he is right now in the MPL. TDZ, ikaw, man. Ngayon na pinag-usapan natin yung Omega Execration. Your thoughts?
Sa Omega Execration, unang-una akala ko talaga, games will look forward sa Omega because of their recent performance. Galing silang M2. But with Execration, nakita natin yung performance sila from off-season tournaments such as Juicy Legends, yung pinapoint out nga kanina ni Renmar. So, ang ganda talaga ng performance nila. It was unexpected. Performance-wise, nakikita natin yung caliber ng Execration kung gaano sila ka-ready ngayon. Yung practice nila nakikita natin all throughout. The way they drafted, how they executed their draft. Ang tingin ko lang din sa Omega on that side, tingin ko nandun pa yung biglaan because of Daedalus nung nawala si Daedalus sa roster ng Omega. I think there's a lot of adjustments na pwedeng ibigay or na hindi pa gaano na-adapt dito ng current coach, which is si Wynot currently. So there's still a lot of things that need to be adjusted, especially sa drafting. Medyo risky yung first game nila. They went for 4 mages tapos isang Yuzong. So tingin ko, it's a good starter. Maganda yung ina-expect ko nung gusto makita na mag-work ito, pero against Execration, I think that they need to adjust more of their drafting for Omega side.
Yeah, this is not the only time they'll meet. They are in the same group or bracket. So may isa pa, may rematch pa to ang Omega
Yeah.
versus Exe. So we'll see that happen and unfold in the next weeks in this season of the MPL. Nabanggit mo na nga, TDZ, na nawala si Coach Dale at si Coach Why Not, aka Otit na ngayon ang head coach ng Omega. And some might say, again, not to take anything away from Why Not, he's a great coach, a great player in his own right, but you can't deny the technical prowess of one Coach Dale Dalus. Alright? So, that's hot topic number 1. Simulan na natin to. There is an absence of technicality. Again, the fact na nag-draft sila ng 4 mages and a Yuzhong, that sounds very dangerous. Again, coming out of my mouth, parang, I don't think so, man. Ano lang yan, Athena Shield lang sagot dyan, di ba? Oracle, okay na ako. TDZ, your thoughts, you're the one who opened it up. Do you think this is gonna bite them in the ass like weeks down the line? Or sa tingin mo kaya pa nilang ayusin to? This lack of technicalities?
Well, nagigets ko kasi yung concept dito ni Tony, ni Coach Wynat, na kailangan nilang i-aim yung early game session. Well, alam naman natin na ang execration, nakilala sila more on late game prowess. More than 18 minutes, taga nakukuha nila kahit gaano pa kalakas yung kalaban because of the patience from execution. So I think what they're trying to do on the coach's mind is to end the game as early as possible. I think that's the reason why apat na mages sila. Kaso unfortunately, ang isa sa mga napansin ko, yung value dun hindi gaano nag-work out because of marami siyang deaths, marami siyang pick off. So kuha nila yung early game, but slowly hindi sila nakakuha ng mga objectives eh. It should work kapag laging nag-group up sila kaagad, going for the 5-man setup. But the way how execution works it out, talagang spread out sila. Hindi nila hinahayaan na magkaroon ng opportunity. Hinahayaan lang nila.
Alright, so we are gonna wait for TDZ to come back around and finish his explanation. We'll go to you, Nomad. Sa tingin mo ba, maayos pa to ng Omega? Do you think when they eventually get a rematch with Execration, they'll cover up their voids or yung lack of technicality nila dito from the first week? Sa tingin mo kaya pa ba? Is it too late? I mean, week 1, I don't think it's too late. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be the same case kasi it's not the first week is not always a sign of how their performance is going moving forward in the entire tournament. Now, considering the fact that Wynot has already had his experience in the MPL when he was back in playing for Geek Fam, I think alongside Jesse Vash, he was also one of the drafters for them, and they had very decent drafts in their time during Geek Fam. But the thing is, they're still trying to adjust themselves in the current meta that we have right now. The 4 mages picked, sure, it may work to an extent, pero the picks weren't as optimal. And I guess coming into week number 2, that may be the big change that they may have, especially considering the fact that their first match of the next week is against NXP. So, ang dami talaga adjustments pwedeng gawin dito.
Yeah, medyo delix yun. Reptar, Nomad brought up a very important fact na noon, nung nasa Geek Fam pa, Season 4, si Why Not, when he was more of a player, sila ang isa sa mga parang pioneer ng Baliwan draft. If you remember, man, do you remember that? Yung arrival play nila, yung parang 3-4 na arrival?
Oh yeah, I remember,
So
but
it's not a lack of
was such
creativity.
Yeah, the creativity is there, but I think outside of drafting as well, other than the fact that, of course, kilala natin before si Dale about as a drafting coach. Of course, may ano din siya, may sabi din siya sa technical aspects ng players in-game. Now, TDZ and Nomad, you guys focus a lot about dun sa drafting ng Omega, pero last night, pinanood ko ulit yung laban nila against Execration. There's something about Omega right now that parang they're a team stuck in time eh. Kasi yung parang pinapanood ko ngayon ang Omega. Of course, nakita natin si Heath, he's bringing in Matilda, of course. So, in terms of getting in new heroes into the meta, trying to change that, andun pa rin. But in terms of how they move in game, they look like the team that they were a few months ago. Which is a good thing and a bad thing, because if you look back at the matches of Omega and Execration, Omega was always in control for like the first 8 to 10 minutes of the match. But then a team fight would happen for an objective. I think for both matches, if I'm not mistaken, it was both a fight for the Lord, or maybe in game 1 it was a fight for the Turtle. Dahil medyo don't know if it's kulang sa practice ng Omega or they're just, trying to find another chemistry again for this meta. They were always beat by the fact that execution in objective team fights suddenly amped up the aggression, then lagi lang nila hinanap si Hajizi and si Hayes. And Omega was always out of position for that. Na biglang, tatlo o apat, tatalon sa likod, hanapin si Hajizi, hanapin si Hayes. The moment one of them goes down, talo na sila sa team fight. Go back to watching Omega vs. Execration Game 1 and Game 2. That was always the story. From those moments na natalo ang Omega in a big team fight, they completely lost control. They couldn't find a way to get back. Pero andun pa rin yung Omega na they know how to handle the minion waves, especially in the mid. They know how to build the 3K to 4K gold lead by the time the Lord spawns. But there's something about how they're handling team fights that just doesn't feel like Omega.
So, you're saying it's both a good thing and a bad thing na hindi talaga sila nagbago ng lineup. Siyempre, nawala si Dale pero nandiyan pa rin si Why Not. It feels like, I hate to put it this way, like I'm saying this in just the best way possible to like compress the thoughts. Ang dami nating nasabi from PDZ, Nomad, and Reptar. Do you guys agree when I say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks? Diba? Parang ganun eh. Diba?
In my opinion, that is a tough question because there are some cases where you can teach an old dog new tricks, especially if it's
hard. It's just hard.
But pwedeng nasanay sa kay Dale kung parang nandun pa sila sa adjustment space. Kasi alam naman natin MLBB change lagi siya ng patch notes, meron mga meta heroes na bigla lumalabas. Especially itong MPL Season 7, first week lagi ng MPL, doon natin nakikita kung ano yung meta kung ano yung mga heroes, kung paano mag-evolve yung meta. So, kaya tingin ko at some point, meron talagang punto na it's really difficult to teach yung pag-old dog mo, kumbaga, parang...
It seems like they're playing catch-up. Sa totoo lang, it feels like they're playing catch-up. Yung idea nila na 4 mages meta, na parang ibabaon mo yung kalaban in the first 10 minutes and hopefully end before they even catch up. It feels like a sidestep lang or a half step forward. I don't know. It feels like Execration just got it all figured out. But that's our take on Omega versus Execration. Again, the king and the rest of the gang from Etivac sweeping our MPL Season 6 Grand Finalists. Let's move on to the second series of the day. And we're going to have to compress this 3-game series, guys. Work Osterforce versus Aura PH. The 2-time MPL PH champions versus the hot upstarts who went undefeated in their qualifiers, and a lot of people will swear, as in legit, ang dami mong tatanungin, sinong top 4 mo? Malamang sa malamang, nandun ang Work Osterforce. Na welcome sila, guys. Na welcome ang Work Osterforce. Sabi ng Aura PH, welcome sa MPL. Kami nga pala ang nagkampiyon dito nung season 4 and 5. How you doing? All right. I want to know what your thoughts are because I have some thoughts as well. I did not cast the game, so I was able to watch it. So let's start with Reptar. What do you think of this series, 3-game series?
Well, for Work Osterforce, ito yung perfect introduction para sa kanila na kung hindi pa nila naramdaman yung moment na ay nasa MPL na tayo guys, this is the perfect introduction for them. Dahil nga nakalaban na lang isang team na with the introduction of Dale Dulus into the coaching staff has an even crazier and more unpredictable draft strategy. Not unpredictable to the levels of Coach Bonchan, but it will really test how well you are, how good you are at drafting, and how flexible your picks are. And that's one of the things we were saying about Work Osterforce. They made it to the qualifiers with, of course, their pure absolute technical skill, but their reliance kasi sa mga picks na malakas sila, they always made sure that most of them always had their comfort picks. But now that they're in the MPL, we really need to see them branch out more. We saw them do that a little bit in Work Osterforce, pero andun pa rin yung process ng, okay, we're still not completely used to these new things we're trying to include, but eventually I feel like Work Osterforce is going to be that team na give it a few more weeks, they'll eventually find their role.
Yeah, I agree. Nomad, your thoughts on Work Osterforce versus RPH?
Not gonna lie, I thought they had us in the first half because I really thought that Aura was going to fall down during their
2-0, di
first
ba?
game.
Almost.
Oh, it was almost a 2-0, but the comeback victory from Aura PH was definitely a statement na, hey, we want our third championship. Don't stop us there. They can't stop us, so to speak. Pero it's just like what Reptar said, it is a good start for Work Ossifords kasi it's their adjustment period. During their qualifiers, it was a flawless run for them. This time around, they're up against the best of the Philippines, and if anything, going up against Aura PH in the first match that they ever had can finally wake them up and adjust accordingly to the meta that we have in the season as well as the other teams.
Yep. To be fair, ito nga talaga parang yung ideal and most realistic welcome to a team like Work Oster Force. If they won this 2-0, parang mas lalong dadami yung tanong natin eh. 'Di ba? But now that it's a 2-1 with Aura PH, it seems like more in reality. TDZ, I have a question to ask you, and I hate to be so specific, no, kasi medyo open-ended yung kay Reptar tsaka kay Nomad. But I want to focus on the new TZ brothers, okay? Medyo pinsan mo yata to eh. TDZ, tapos si RTZ, at saka si 3MRTZ. RTZ is someone you might know from the qualifiers, guys, na si Michael Jordan. Okay? So si Michael Jordan, yung mid-player ng Work Oster Force, siya na ngayon si RTZ. And then si 3MRTZ, ang kanilang off-laner or turtle laner. TDZ, your thoughts on these two hot, very young players? Kasi parang nung qualifiers, puro si Chu eh. Puro si Chu. Pero this time around, a lot of people are saying, ito abangan ninyo, si MR tsaka si RTZ.
Tol, tingin ko honestly kailangan talaga natin palitan yung pangalan natin na TZ para talaga magkaroon ng impact na ganun kalakas eh. Kumbaga, lahat ng TZ karamihan, lahat ng TZ, Carl TZ, Club TZ, lahat malulupit. Pero ang take ko dito unang-una kay 3MRTZ, ang galing niya mag-show. The way he builds up his show, the way he moves around the map, laging on point. Pati yung bilis ng daliri niya by catching up people. Tingin ko isa rin yun sa malaking factor kung bakit nanalo ang Work Oster Force Game 1 against Aura. Sa sobrang bilis ng execution nila, hindi nakahabol yung Aura PH. Pero nung pag-abot ng Game 2 and Game 3, doon may kita yung pagiging veterano ng Aura PH, kung gaano sila kabilis mag-adapt sa situation, kung gaano sila kabilis malaman kung ano yung play style, kung ano yung impact ng Work Oster Force. But going back to the topic, 3MRTZ, one of the show players na kailangan natin tignan, especially sa team ng Work Oster Force. Ang laki ng impact na binibigyan niya for this team, and also when it comes to rotation, really on point.
Yeah. And of course, RTZ, arguably the most stable of all of them. I think kailangan din siyang abangan. But now, you mentioned their game 2 and 3 comeback. We talked about how Aura PH played the series, not just the game each. And here's what made me really think na Aura PH really showed respect to Work Oster Force. And they both walked away stronger teams. They both walked away learning something. No? Raflesia brought out the Grok. And if Aura PH really just took this game or series seriously, or did not take it seriously, hindi sila mapipilitan maglabas ng parang bago eh. Diba sa totoo lang, this Grok, it was pretty new in the metagame. We all thought Grok was dead. The biggest tanks for the past, 3 to 4 months were Sylvana, Johed, mas uso pa nga si Khalid, si Baksha. But yeah, right? Yeah, Cho tank. But now bringing back an old classic in Grok, it really brought life to the series. Your thoughts, guys, on this draft? Again, it could have been Dale's idea, could have been Arcadia, pero yung linaro talaga ni Raflesia na parang Mama Grok. How did this factor into this series and their growth? Let's start with you, Reptar.
Well, with the Grok pick, I had to stop myself nung sa English cast na sobrang ako may excite. I really wanted to nerd out at that moment. I mean, na-level ko pa rin because, you mentioned something about the respect. And Aura PH, they experimented, but it was a very calculated experiment. Kasi alam natin, before nung meta pa si Grok, that's one of the comfort picks of Raflesia. So hindi naman sa sinusubukan ni Rafflesia ang bagong hero na hindi pa niya nagamit before. Nagamit niya. In-adjust lang niya yung playstyle niya, and of course, high and dry means that in a way, yung habol mo sa kanya para siyang pag mag-heal ako din, kalaban mo yung Claude eh. Except that this time you're a Grok, and whoever you find in the jungle, mas masakit yung damage mo with the power of nature. You're gonna disrupt them. Just isang full swing, they're gonna think twice about going after you. And I really love that Grok pick because, again, it was an experiment, but such a calculated experiment na hindi mo masasabi cheese. It's a viable pick for any team na gusto nila subukan if they want to go for a Grok high and dry. Mold it off of how Rafflesia played it.
Yeah, don't sleep on Grok. I mean, it's not the only time we saw Grok this weekend. More on that later. Nomad, thoughts on Grok? I mean, if people watched your stream, especially from back then, alam nilang nag-Grok ka din. So, was this something that made you happy that, oh, Grok's back?
No, it's not necessarily Grok per se, pero the old school tanks na lagi natin lalaro dati is back right now. I'm not sure. I mean, we saw Franco a little bit, pero we'll touch on that later on. Pero with the Grok being picked up and the selection of the high end, I really attest to how Rafflesia plays. Kasi even the championship Kufra back in season 4, Rafflesia was pretty much just looking for any solo individuals all across the map to look for an opening to fight. And having the high and dry on the Grok really allows him to make an impact in the early game of any core who is caught alone in the jungle or any support that's caught rotating in between, and it stopped any pushes, any potential ganks from them. And if anything, this might just be a new thing that we might see moving forward. Like we might see a couple more tanks resurfacing with not their usual tank emblems.
Yeah. Actually, yun ang gusto ko eh. I actually like this evolution of the metagame where it's small tweaks and hindi siya yung baliwan na parang from out of nowhere, ay tank na pala to. It's more of just like old ideas in a new environment. And essentially that's what this patch is. It's just an adjustment of little things. I'm talking about that bush. I'm talking about a few numbers. I'm talking about that little wonder na kilala naman na natin na may bago lang feature. So, I guess as we move on through the weekend, recalling what happened, lalabas palalo yung mga points na ito. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are watching MPL Recall. Alam kong naghahanap kayo ng real talk ni Midnight. It's gonna be coming up, all right? Very, very soon. If you want to hear his thoughts, stay with us because coming up next, we're gonna be talking about day number 2. Diyan natin makikita ang unang showing ng World Champions, the welcoming of LPE, and of course, a whole lot more. Stay with us. You're watching MPL Recall. We'll be right back. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving us a like and subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook via the link in the description. Thanks.